Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. We begin in the name of Allah, whose mercy is profound, whose kindness is forever. We have as yet done all the discussion on Arab, and we have seen that the Arab in a noun in an Arabic sentence take three forms. Either in the form of Rafa, or in the form of Nasab, or in the form of Jar. Obviously, these terms, whether in Arabic or English, are just meant to convey the understanding, the essence, the sense of the meanings. That's what really needs to be always our focus of attention. Almost the entire discussion on nouns is now over, except for one small bit, and that is what I call the followers. The reason why a noun takes one of these three forms of Arab in Arabic sentence is what we have already discussed. However, there are two further reasons why a noun would take a certain form of Arab in an Arabic sentence. Both these reasons are because they are following another noun which has taken a peculiar Arabic form, and therefore this follower noun is taking the very same Arab as the ones that it is following, as the one noun that it is following. So let's see what these followers are. There are essentially two followers. One is what is called sifat, and the other is what is called badal. In other words, if there is a noun which appears in a sentence as the sifat, the attribute of a certain noun, it is going to follow the Arab of the noun of which it is sifat. Likewise, the badal, the alternative, is a noun which is going to take the Arabic form of the noun that it is badal of, whose mubdal minhu is what is going to take a peculiar Arabic form, rafa, nasab or jar, and because it takes that Arabic form, its follower badal is going to take exactly the same Arab. Now let's have a look at a little deeper look at what these two followers are. When we talk about sifat, we are actually talking about the attribute of a noun. For example, if there is an Arab, there is a noun called a rajul, a man, a man could have any number of attributes, can have any sifat. For example, the man could be alim, rajulun, alimun. So, rajulun is a man. However, alimun is his sifat. That is what is qualifying it, what is giving rajul his attribute. Now, I'm putting rajul as in the Arabic form because I'm assuming, for example, that it is the khabar of Zaid. Zaidun, rajulun, alimun. Zaid is a man who is a scholar. Zaid is a scholar man. Now, Zaid is mubtada and therefore is in the form of rafa, Arabic form of rafa. Rajul is the khabar and therefore is in the rafa form, and alimun is the sifat, is the attribute of rajul, and therefore it is in the rafa form too. Now, this is always going to be the pattern. For whatever reasons, if the original noun is taking a certain Arabic form, the sifat is going to follow under all circumstances. It's not just in the case of Arab, it is also going to follow the original noun of which it is a sifat for it being nakira or marifa, that is common noun or proper noun. Now, rajulun here is a common noun. Remember, we discussed that if you have a sentence wherein you have a mubtada and khabar, jumla ismiya khabariya, a sentence wherein there is a noun of which you are giving information, then the noun which is the mubtada has to be marifa, proper noun, and the khabar, which is the information, has to be common noun. So, Zad is the proper noun, Rajulun, the khabar, is common noun, and Alimun, its sifat, is common noun too, because it would not just follow Rajulun in its Arab, it is also going to follow Rajulun in it being nakira or marifa. Moreover, it's also going to follow it in it being either wahid or tathniya, which is two, or jama. So that is again another aspect which it's going to follow its original noun. And a fourth possibility is the possibility of gender. That is, it would either be muzakkar, masculine, or muannas, feminine. If, for example, had it been, let's say, Fatima, imra'atun. Fatima is a lady who is an alima. In that case, imra'atun, which is the original noun, it's going to be followed by its sifat, which is going to be the same in its gender. Fatima, by the way, is not taking two harakat, is something which obviously needs to be explained. Despite it not having an alif lam before it, you find that it is taking a singular form of rafa, or the harakat that we ascribe to, in this case, is the pesh. It's not plural, it's not double, it's singular. So that's something which we will talk about later. But what I'm saying here is now that when you have a sifat, this particular reason for a noun to follow its original noun, then the sifat follows its mawsuf for four different reasons. In Arab, in it being nakira or marifa, in its form of wahid, tathniya, jama, or muzakkar or muannas. So that's what is sifat. So let's take another example. Let's take the example of a sifat which is going to be following a noun which is in the form of nasab. So why would there be a nasab? Well, one of the reasons could be that the noun is maf'ul bihi. So raitu means it's a verb. I saw. When I say I saw, obviously the one I'm going to see is going to be in the form of nasab. Why? Because it's going to be maf'ul bihi. I saw a man, rajulan aliman, who was a scholar. So, because the original noun rajulan is in the Arabi state of nasab, for reasons of it being maf'ul bihi, the sifat which is following rajulan is going to be also in the nasab form. If I was to say that I saw two men who were scholars, I hope some of you will be able to do it on your own without me letting you know about it. But for others, it's rajulaini. Why? Because rajul, when it is rajulun, its tasniya would be rajulani. But when it is rajulan or rajulin, its tasniya is going to be rajulaini. Remember, muslimun, muslimani, and musliman, muslimaini. So rajulaini is going to be followed by its sifat, which is going to be alimaini. So this sifat is diligently following its mawsuf, the one of whose sifat attribute it is. Likewise, you can go into the details of the other examples, wherein you're talking about feminine followed by a feminine sifat. You're talking about feminine in two, that is tasniya, and it's going to be likewise following the same pattern. Let's take one example of jar before we proceed for the next possibility of the follower. If I say qara'tu, I read, fil Quran, I read in the Quran. Which Quran? Which is the noble Quran, Quran al-Kareem. Now this Kareem is again the sifat of al-Quran, and here it's going to take the form of jar. Why? Well, because al-Quran here is in the Arabic form of jar because of the harf jar fi, and it is followed by al-Kareem, which again is has to be in the Arabic form of jar because sifat always follows its mawsuf in all aspects. So what we find here is that because al-Quran is marifa, is proper noun with alif lam, al-Kareem has to be in proper noun as well. If you were to say, for example, giving you a slight variation and call it a little more complex and understanding, is when you would say Raitu, I saw Zaid. I saw Zaid. Now, Zaid is again maf'ul bihi and therefore has to be in the Arabic form of nasab. So, Raitu Zaidan. I hope you know that it cannot be Raitu Zaidun because Zaid in this sentence is maf'ul bihi, is the one on whom the act of seeing is being done. So, Raitu Zaidan, I saw Zaid. Now, what you're saying is that, there are quite a few Zaids around, 3 or 4 maybe, but one of them is Alim. So, you're qualifying, you're explaining Zaid, and you're saying that Zaid, which Zaid? Well, Aliman. Now, because Zaid is nasab, Alim has to also be nasab. Now, the reason why alim is al-alim, because al-alim is the sifat of zad, and zad we know is marifa, proper noun. Now, alim, the word alim, uh, basically is not a proper noun. In order for it to be a proper noun, it has to have alif lam before it, appearing before it, for it to be described or to qualify to be a proper noun. So zad is the original noun, the mawsuf, and alim is its sifat. It has to follow it, not just in Arab, but has to follow it in it being nakara or marifa, wahid, tasniya, jama, muzakkar, muannas. That is exactly what it is doing. And we've already studied that because zad doesn't have an alif lam, when it is going to have nasab, it will have two harakat, and it will be followed by an alif, which is just a custom of writing it that way. But al-alim with an alif lam would not allow alim, the word al-alim, to be followed by two harakat. You cannot have two harakat after alif lam. One of them gets dropped. So, Ra'aytu Zaidan al-alim. Well, sometimes it does happen that you write it this way, Zaidan al-alim. That's just a matter of reading it more fluently. You have a few occasions in the Quran as well, wherein you have this noon qutni, that is what they call. I remember it in, for example, Surah Humaza, Wailul likulli humazati lumazati nillazi jama. So this nillazi is just meant to join a noun with the next one in a way that the flow is not lost. It's flowing continuously without giving any gap. So that's one peculiar way of joining it. But I mean, it's perfectly okay if you say Raitu Zaidan al-alima. But if you would want to do it in a flow, you would say Raitu Zaidan al-alim. Right. Now, this is one of the reasons why some nouns are going to have a peculiar i'rab in them, although the three categories of reasons of i'rab do not apply to them directly. They apply to them indirectly, in that the nouns that they are following, they are the ones who have taken a certain i'rab, and because they are following them, they will have the same i'rab. The second of these two followers is what I call badal, which is, call it the replacement, the alternative, the other way of expressing a noun. You know, sometimes we do have in other languages as well, wherein what you are describing in two nouns coming next to each other, a description of the same noun in a different way. It's the very same noun, the very same sense, the very same meaning, but expressed differently. A very common expression that we come across is President Obama. The President Obama said. So, who is the President? Obama. And who is Obama? The President. So, one or the other, they are the same. One replaces, one describes the very same person, and what you have is the badal. Now, when in Arabic this badal appears, it again has exactly the same i'rab as that of mubdal minhu, the one it is replacing. For example, we have in the Quran in Surah Al-Baqarah a verse which says, Fal yattaqillah. Yattaqillah. Then he should fear Allah. Rabbahu, who is his Lord. فَلْيَتَّقِ Then he must fear, he must be conscious of the presence of Allah. Who is Allah? His Lord. So Rabbahu here is in actual fact nothing but a badal of Allah, is the replacement, the alternative expression of Allah. And this badal, because it is badal, is requiring the need for the same i'rab of nasab to appear in rab as well. Allah is nasab because فَلْيَتَّقِ Then he should fear. Whom should he fear? Allah. So the one who is to be feared is the one who is maf'ul bihi, is the one on whom the verb is working, and therefore it has to be in the form of nasab, and that's how it is. Now because Allah is in the form of nasab, Rabb has to also be in the form of nasab, because who else is Rabbahu but Allah? So it is Allah who has been described in another manner, in another form, and that is Rabbah. Here Allah is obviously has one harakat, because we know that Allah is actually ilah preceded by al. So, one of the two harakat of nasab are dropped. It's not tanween anymore. Rabbahu, on the other hand, is in the form of nasab and has only one i'rab, not because it's following Allah. I mean, had there been no definite reason for Rabb to have just one single harakat, it would have taken two harakat. There wouldn't have been any problems. However, here, the reason why it is taking one harakat is that I hope some of you would be able to predict. It's mudaf. Because it's mudaf, and who is mudaf ilayh, all mudaf, when they appear, they come with only one harakat. Baytu Zaydin, the house of Zayd. Rabbahu, his Lord. So this is an example of badal. Let me give you another example from the Quran. The Almighty is in Surah Alaq, the 96th surah of the Quran, in verses 15 and 16, is mentioning Kalla la illam yantahi lanasfa'am bin nasiya. La nasfa'am bin nasiya. We're most certainly going to get hold of, grip his forelock. Lanasfa'am bin nasiya, we will most certainly get hold of his forelock. Nasiyatin, which forelock? Nasiyatin kazibatin khatiya. Khatiyatin. the forelock, that is kaziba, lying, khatia, sinful. So this nasiya is actually repeating the same nasiya, but this time round it's apparently nakira, which really means that when you're talking about badal and mubdal minhu, it is not necessary that you satisfy the condition of nakira and marifa to be they be similar in that category as well, because this was marifa and this one is nakira. So a nasiya, which nasiya? The forelock, that is kaziba, lying, khatia, sinful. Now these are obviously the sifat of nasiya. So because of them being sifat, they are taking the same Arabic form of jar, but nasiya is jar because of bay, harf jar, and when it is followed by its badal nasiya, which is being described as to what kind of forelock is the one that is going to be grabbed by the Almighty and His system and His angels, it's not, the badal is following nasiya mubdal minhu. Now what I've described in this presentation is that we've already seen that there are three categories of reasons why a noun is going to take three different forms of i'rab. It's either going to be rafa or nasab or jar, and each one of them has its own reasons. We've seen rafa has 4 reasons, jar has 2 reasons, nasab has 11 reasons that we've discussed. Obviously there could be more as well, but we have taken care of most of the reasons. But in this particular presentation, I have mentioned the fact that there are 2 other reasons why a noun might take one of these 3 Arabic forms, and those 2 reasons are because the nouns that they take any Arab are actually following another noun, and because of them following some other noun, they would follow them in whatever Arabic form they are, and those following nouns can either be sifat of another noun or badal of another noun. May the Almighty enable us to understand His book as best as is possible. Maybe we be able to understand the meanings directly when we recite the Quran, which is exactly why we are going through this exercise.